It's time for the birth of the new golden era. Welcome to Shattering the Matrix. Your host, Ari Kopel, and co-host, Serena, bring you information that will shatter the matrix and shine light on the conditions and forces that are keeping the planet in third-dimensional density and inspire solutions and positive outcomes. Humanity needs to step up and desire to be freed from the darkness of this prison. No one, no thing outside of ourselves will do this for us. Ari Kopel helps us step into our power and authority that will shatter this prison. Now, be prepared to open up your consciousness, become aware, and emerge victorious by standing in our divine power and divine authority in unison, co-creating a new earth. Now, here's your host of Shattering the Matrix, Ari Kopel, and co-host Serena.
Hi, this is Ari Kopel and Serena with Shattering the Matrix. Today we have a very, very special guest, Alisa Battaglia. And Alisa brings amazing wisdom and knowledge just from a lot of experience from all kinds of different fields. Specifically, she's a wellness educator. She also has she's a master gardener. She's into ecopsychology. And it just goes on and on. The list is just amazing. Alisa is very accomplished, and she's an expert in many, many things. But she also brings an additional information in reference to all the things that we are, that Serena and I are trying to bring forth, which is, of course, the information about humanity and the bondage that humanity is in right now. And she is also one of those that not only knows about it, but also has amazing insight and provide solutions to this as well. So, Alisa, are you with us today?
I am. Glad to be here.
Fantastic, Alisa. Thank you for being here. And Serena, you're here?
Yes, ma'am.
Fantastic. I just wanted to also mention, if you can talk a little bit about what your ecologyofspirit.com is, because that's your website. And I went in there, and it's just loaded with wonderful information. What inspired you to bring this, this website up, and what is it all about? What's the goal of the website?
Wow. Well, what a loaded question, as you would say. Ecologyofspirit.com was actually inspired through a series of visions that I received in my transformation process as I invoked the wisdom of nature. And I used to go into these lucid dreaming states and actually travel through intra-dimensions. I would call them, one was, the hall of the living library, the hall of wisdom. I traveled into the hall of ignorance, and I used to get all this information, and I would be awakened in the morning, oh my gosh, in the middle of the night, and I would just want to sleep. I was so exhausted, and they keep getting this impulse. You have to write it down. You have to write it down. So I have books and books of notebooks of information, and so then all this information I had to accumulate it, and I created the website, which actually came down kind of like as one stream, and then I ended up creating a book called ecologyofthespirit.com, which actually is a collaborative effort. And is still in the works, and then the Essential Self, Cultivating the Sacred Wisdom through Polarity Integration. So it's a women's book, The Essential Self, Cultivating actually the Sacred Feminine through Polarity Integration. So this is all a process, and it's hopeful that we could use this information and help us to move forward.
Absolutely.
And integrating the gender split.
I'm sorry. You were also in the process of writing a book as well?
I have several.
Or
yes, actually, they're done. They just need to be edited. I'm looking for a publisher.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm sure that you will find the right publisher, and you'll get that out as well. And so we were talking behind the scenes here in reference to all the things that are in the news and things that are just happening in the planet. It looks like it's escalating, and so, and you were saying that yesterday specifically you were feeling kind of something really strange happening in your solar plexus, very similar to what I experienced several days even further than that. And so I think that the way that we'd like to, bring this radio show today is addressing those symptoms so people can be clear as to what is actually affecting them, what that looks like, and when to recognize when it's not coming from themselves, but when it's coming from external forces. Did you want to maybe tell us a little bit about what you experienced yesterday?
Sure. I think it's really important that people actually could just be in their sensory body and feel, which I find that a lot of people are very distracted. So they're not connected to their body. But I don't watch TV, and so I'm kind of like, I like to commune in nature, and so my feeling apparatus is maybe a little more sensitive than most. Anybody can cultivate it by communing in nature, gardening, walking, being with your animals, just not plugging into technology as much. So I was sitting, and out of nowhere, I just, finished walking and being in nature, and it was just such a lovely day. And all of a sudden, I started to get this. I felt like there was like this huge implosion in my solar plexus, and it felt like something was sitting on me. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is like such a strange feeling. I don't know what could have induced this. So I'm starting to feel, and then I noticed what crept in were all these like inserted negative thoughts. And it's really important to discern between what arises from inside your mind versus what is piercing your mind from the outside. There's two different expressions, like someone's incepting you versus something that's actually arising out of perhaps a suppressive emotion.
Right.
You know what I mean? That creates the thought. And I noticed that it arose from outside of me. It was like a penetration. It was like an intrapsychic penetration, piercing my mind, inducing me to think negatively. I mean, it was like so creepy. And I started to just sit with it. And then, of course, my own inner will is very strong, my soul power, and I just thwarted it out. But the most important, really, the most important, I'm going to give you a secret ingredient, and it's to have self-conscious spirit. And if people are not self-conscious, then they're subject to all sorts of attacks.
Absolutely.
Good point, yes. Okay. Yes. Can you elaborate on that a little bit, what it feels like?
What feels like the
being self-conscious awareness, because actually there are two ways I imagine that somebody can interpret that. And one can be self-conscious as in self-paranoid. A lot of people do go in that direction, as opposed to having self-awareness of any anomalies that come in, which I think the second definition is what you're talking about.
Well, I'm in self-conscious spirit, meaning that I know who I am at a soul level. And because I know who I am, and I'm not my role or the mask that I wear on a daily basis, to be out in the social world, then I know that I am a self-conscious spirit, that to know my inner divinity. And because I sit in my inner divinity, anything that's not divine or the fake world, it tries to enter people, or it tried to enter me. It's like taking the world and bringing it inside of you, the malaise of the world and bringing it inside of you. Well, that world is not who I am. I'm separate. I'm a self-conscious spirit that's living an experience on Earth, but the world drama is not who I am. So, I'm meaning like I'm self-sovereign or self-conscious spirit. I have a soul awareness. I feel ensouled versus living a role, through the ego. So when Ari asked me earlier, oh, well, how would you like to present yourself? I'm like, well, you're going to ask me that question? I'm just going to say I'm a soul, because I'm a soul. I mean, my identity is a soul, not the role that I wear in society. To me, that's totally irrelevant.
Exactly.
So am I explaining it well enough?
I understand perfectly.
Yeah.
Did you have any other questions to follow that up, Serena?
Yeah, I think Alisa is speaking from a point of awareness, self-awareness that she's experienced her whole life. But I think that there are many people in the audience who may not have that self-awareness and do not know what she's talking about. Like for her, it's very clear the differentiation between the thought that penetrated her mind as opposed to a thought that arises from her own emotions. She has enough awareness of self to notice when that happens, but a lot of people that are listening do not have that self-awareness. So I was trying to see if she can clarify what that felt like for those people who don't have that awareness.
Okay, let me see how I can do that. Wow, boy. It's kind of hard because if that's the,
Yeah, and I was put in that position a little while ago, too.
Okay, so if I'm sitting here and I'm just, let's just say I'm sitting in the grass outside, and all my thoughts are just, floating, and I'm, enjoying nature and seeing the butterflies, and I'm really at peace, just communing and feeling really at peace and one with everything. And then all of a sudden, there's an interception of my thought stream. It's like an interception of a thought stream that wants to cut it and create a perforation to make the stream syncopated, like to create a hole in my stream or to dissect the stream, and then it diverts my mind stream that I was in into a negative thought pattern that had nothing to do with anything that I was engaged in.
Yeah,
it was almost like a heist of my mind. It was almost like a heisting of my mind stream.
Right.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah,
it's very subtle, and I know it can be a little difficult, and that's where discernment comes in, and that's almost where fine tuning your instrument, your feeling apparatus. The thing is that a lot of people, they're so engaged in the internet and all these archontic devices that steal their attention away. They become all mental, very mental, and they lose touch with how they feel. And if a person's not connected to how they feel and they're not congruent in what they think, feel, say, and do, there's like a fragmentation. And that's what we need to be concerned about, is how do we align ourselves to mend the fragmentation so we can learn how to be more feelingful. Because to be human is to feel. And I'm noticing that people are being dehumanized by shutting off their feeling component into some sort of synthetic reality that's kind of almost monstrous, like what's this whole thing about, like zombies, people eating each other. I mean, this is not humane. This is inhumane and cannibalistic. This is not our true nature. This is like dissecting us and diverting us into patterns of terror and ways of being that are not natural. These are like, and it's like having an assault on your mind. I always said that, we're going to come to a point where we're going to need literally a rights of mind. And I think we're at that point where we need to develop a rights of mind, because people are starting to read other people's thoughts. There's that movie called Inception. Did you ever see the movie Inception?
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's a perfect example right there. Perfect example. And even in The Matrix, it was very interesting. There's a section in there that says, they're like, you just have to watch for an anomaly, because it'll look like everything's the same, but then all of a sudden something will be off kilter, and then you'll know that's like the fake, the insert, the fakery. You know what I'm saying? So it's almost like, well, can you see the world of illusion, or are you in the dream? I know it gets nebulous, but one can't even go that far. I mean, how far down the rabbit hole can you go? You can't even go far if you don't even know that, if there's no awareness, and if you can't feel. If people are stunted, then what?
Exactly. Oh yeah, absolutely right. And then we're also stuck on, which leads us to another point. A lot of us believe that we are our roles, that we are the roles that we have. right? And then that is very interesting because that study that was done by the Philip Zimbardo, talking about, it's called the study of evil, how people are capable of doing evil, people that didn't even know, that they were capable of doing evil, because they're put in certain roles, and because those roles are, it's accepted that those roles would do a certain type of task, a certain type of, act, that it's so much easier when they think that they are that. Did you want to talk about that a little bit? About
his book is called The Lucifer Effect, and it's the roles that people are taken or take on. And the fact is that no one questions the authority that tells them to do those things. So, true to the archontic powers, which are these nebulous forces that are unseen, but they're like intrapsychic predators, they like to induce humans into evil. But then you have to question, you can't blame anybody outside yourself, because a person who perpetrates the evil is the guilty one, But then we have to look at the systemic power that actually creates the setting of evil. And that's where we look at the world today. Our systems, the systemic system that I call the Patrix, which is the patriarchal matrix power system, that creates the setting of the evil. And we see it all day long. I mean, Monsanto's creating the setting of evil. I mean, for goodness sakes, they give farmers seeds, and then the farmers realize, wow, we're destroying nature, and we can't feed our family because it's all poison, and they end up shooting themselves, committing suicide. How horrible is that? That's the ultimate evil, is to self-abnegate. That's like the ultra sin for the ones who, are religious. And then so we have to discern what's the main motivation of evil. And what's interesting is Phil Zimbardo, and probably from our own observation, can say that, wow, the main motivation of evil is boredom. Well, how many people are bored? Yeah. They're not even invested in themselves. Their mind is diverted into a box. It's always this EMF box, which will definitely control your mind in some way. I mean, please do your own research. Don't take me to give you the answers, because, again, it's all about direct experience and, what we, our own conclusions. Otherwise we're just parroting and believing what someone else says without doing our own homework. But
Yeah, so that's a really good point, Alisa, that you made about narrowing ourselves down into a box. And there has been a process of the removal of feelings, because these people who don't like feelings or are uncomfortable with what they feel never bother to investigate them and their importance, and are more comfortable with dealing with technologies and computer and matrix systems, because it gives them such a distraction from what they are truly created to be that it makes their life easier, but it lacks complete self-responsibility, right? And this has brought people into this narrow box of being these automated mental creatures that are literally run by an internet matrix. And that was a great point. And I wanted to read something from your website, since you brought up the word, that we shall state here officially that Alisa Battaglia is the one who has coined the term Patrix, P as in Peter, A-T-R-I-X. And I have used this term with other people, and they absolutely love it. And I'm going to read something from your website, Ecology of the Spirit, that describes this, okay? And it says, the insult to the life urge results in gross divisiveness in the misuse of masculine energy and its dominator principles that has divorced the gender allies from one another to produce a sexual case system, generating extremism in the mistrust in human relationships. When imbalanced, masculine force has been instilled at the base level of consciousness, and its definitions woven into the fabric of social consciousness. Human evolutionary potential ceases, and a superficial or artificial life takes over. We must take heed the warnings of our ancient family of this defeat, a defeat that has overlaid the natural generosity of human love, who can give love, but can no longer receive love due to the outsetting of the feminine quotient. I call this false patriarchal value system the Patrix, which is an artificially constructed matrix or big daddy or technosphere whose policy is divide and rule. Its essential structure has existed for thousands of years that we know, and its template is probably the oldest form of exploitation and subjugation on one part of the population by another.
Wow.
End of quote. Now, that is some powerful observation.
Wow.
So much easier to read my stuff than that.
Yeah, and I encourage anybody to please go to Alisa's site, Ecology of the Spirit, because it is absolutely encyclopedic in some of the most wonderful knowledge that is based in the ancient knowledge of the divine wisdom of everything that is life-affirming. Anything that is life-affirming.
Oh,
so I
thank
encourage
you.
anybody to go there and to look into that and read more. So please do continue, Alisa.
Well, it's a teaching website, and so I offer a lot of free information there that can actually be a quick workshop, in the subject,
Mm-hmm.
a self-help, instantaneous workshop. So, So what question would you like to ask in pertaining to that? That was a mouthful. There's a lot to talk about just in that area.
Would you like to continue along that line, or is there something else that you have the heart to express?
Well, what exactly are you asking me?
Okay, well, let's talk about some of the remedies for this situation, because we are very much aware of this situation being what it is. It's not even a question. But, for example, let's talk about the Nastasia series of books and the information that you have gleaned from that.
Oh,
I think those books affected you very powerfully, did they not?
Very powerfully. And, they're so simple. And it was your urging that had me read them, because I don't read nonfiction. But actually, It's factual. It's called faction now or something. There's a term that brings them together.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So fiction that's really fact, but it has to be created in a story in order for it to be published. Because the powers that be, of course, see it.
But a lot of that information contained in the books was already part of your own inner knowing from your own travels through the interdimensions. Based on your own shamanic experiences throughout your life, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
It bridges everything together. I'm a master gardener today, and I love to plant, and I share that with Serena. We love to plant our own food, and I'm also an ecopsychology, master's ecopsychology student, and in some of my homework, I had to go out in nature, and it's through Project Nature Connect. So I invite everybody to visit their website to actually have some interesting ways that show you freely to connect with nature and how you can bridge those gaps in consciousness, because nature does allow. She's so splendid. She literally gives you the antidote to fill your gaps in consciousness, to create that undivided stream with the spirit in nature. And when you commune in nature, or with nature, and with everything around, and just smell and listen to the sounds and just be immersive, there's so much information that comes up. But not only that, it de-stresses the body, it brings the body back into relaxation. The magnetic field, removes the EMFs and just, quells the central nervous system of all the stress. And that allows the space for beautiful thoughts to arise, because now you're in essence with everything. So in a way, I chose to bridge the gap by planting, and I do it in a very anthroposophic way, which I suppose would be in a way that uses the cosmic elements and the ground in nature to open the seed, because everything starts as a seed thought.
Mm-hmm.
So whether it's a physical seed or an actual thought form seed, it all starts as the seed, and it still has the same process of growth, So did you want to ask me a question?
No.
Okay.
You keep on right on.
Right. So so as I allowed the seeds to germinate, the physical seed and my spiritual seed to germinate, there's like a flowering of awareness that occurs, and that's different for everybody. So it's a very personal, direct experience. So mine is not necessarily the same for anybody else. But Nastasia, she does say that the antidote to the forces that are generating mayhem on our planet is to start engaging in nature and start to use the soil to plant. So I almost think it's like symbolically, physically planting, if you can, of course, to engage in the natural spirit of life, because we are, human animals and we're a part of nature, but also to start the imaginal realm and to be creative in your thinking. I think people have really lost the capacity to create. They're duped, they're replicating. They're not actually creating through the imaginal realms. To be human is to use your imagination. Right. And when you use the seed, it could be, imagining, the thought form to imagine it, what you want for the future. In some ways, the secret is about that, but the secret has become kind of bastardized in a way where it's all about glamour and illusion. Oh, I want to manifest my car, or $1 million. It's just nothing but ego context. But I'm talking about true thought building using the seed. Everything has a nucleus, the seed. So I believe everything starts as a seed, whether it's through the soil or through your thought form. And we must use our imagination and connect to the larger forces in order for that seed to actually, pierce, for the seed to break through and then or germinate and to grow where it has a potential to blossom into maturity. So
absolutely.
That's well said. It was just kind of like symbolic of how she shows me, nature shows me different things. I am so filled with so many visionary, you should have just called me a visionary, because that's really what I am. I can see things 10 years ahead. Yeah, it's very interesting.
Introducing Alisa, the visionary.
Yeah, there you go. I'm a visionary. So,
Alisa, I was going to say, a lot of listeners, what you're saying is absolutely profound, and of course, inspired all from the Nastasia books. But there might be a lot of listeners that don't know about this. And can you introduce everyone to what exactly, because I know that you and Serena absolutely know about this and have read all the books, and, but there's a lot of people who don't know. So can you just help everybody, get introduced into
the Ringing Cedars of Russia, isn't that what it's called? And there's, I think, 9 books, and there's a name for each, or 8 books, 8.5 I think it comes up to.
Right.
And who is it by? Hold on.
Vladimir Megara.
There you go, Vladimir Megara.
Yeah,
fantastic.
Megara. Yeah. And they are a series of 9 books written about a woman who lives in the taiga of Russia, the forest, the deep forests of Russia. And she lives by herself with her people. In this case, it's just her father and grandfather, because they have been outcasted by the Matrix society itself. In order for them to separate themselves from the Matrix that was developing, they had to go and live in the forest, and they remained their connection with nature and the land, with the trees, in an organic way that allowed them to live with absolute complete wisdom and in contact with the Creator itself, in constant contact. They never lost contact with Creator. Unlike everybody else who lives in the Matrix system. And so Vladimir Megara was a businessman, and he took his boat and he traveled up the Ob River and in Siberia, and he came across the grandfather. And soon after, he met Nastasia, and she began to teach him. She began to teach him the ways of wisdom. And there's a series of 9 books that give all the information that she has in there, and they are absolutely profound, and they have changed the lives of millions of people on the planet. They have been translated into, I think, 22 different languages, and all the people that have read them have been touched deeply in their core, and heard the call to go back to living with the beauty of the caretaker, the mother, and the source of all creation in a divine way. And that's what these books are about. And if you have soul, they can't help but affect you in a very profound way. These books are amazing.
You know what I find interesting about those books? They're so simple, but it's the way the words have a vibration to it that literally activates something within you, a dormant essence within you. I can't even explain it. I mean, seriously, a 10-year-old can read the book. It's universal, and there's a reason. Literally, they're magical. There's magic on those pages.
Mm-hmm.
And it helped transform me. And, I mean, Serena and I would have conversations, and it just activates the consciousness in ways. I mean, I don't even know how to explain it. It just makes the mind blossom.
But it activates love. It activates you in your heart. I mean, everybody who says that they are activated, if you ask them where they feel this activation, they will tell you in their heart. It just made them feel, like you said, that they wanted to blossom. They themselves wanted to blossom because the matrix is like a tight net that is a control mechanism sitting over the hearts of people. It doesn't allow it. It doesn't like the heart. It doesn't like people that act from the heart, and it doesn't like especially emotions or feelings. But this book, it takes that net and it casts it aside, and your heart blossoms. You feel your true nature, and people's spirits become extremely expansive. They suddenly know what they want to do in life, and they change their lives. They quit their stupid matrix jobs, and they buy some property, and they start growing things, and their lives are improved. And she says herself, Nastasia says herself, in the first book, you can read it in the first couple of pages, she's encoded the words that she uses, that she's encoded them in such a way that they will have a profound effect on the reader that is meant to be affected in that way. Because the books don't affect every single person, but most of the people who read them, but not every single person, right? And I have my suspicions about those who are not affected, but that's another book. Okay?
Well, that's how I became a master gardener, and that's how I decided to become an ecopsychology student and to study it, to literally divert from what I was doing to be in this area. And my whole desire now is to create some sort of eco-community, not necessarily a community, but like an eco-farm around this theme. So, yes, it is.
Totally
it's transformative, those little books. I think it goes to 8.5. It's interesting. Did they actually create a 9th one?
They did, but it was never translated into another language. And it is said that she actually did not help him with that book. And we have, some of us have read the Russian translation into English just using one of these, computerized translators. And it is absolute and complete gibberish. There is nothing to be gleaned from them. And I'm like, this cannot just be because the translation by a computer has messed this up so it's so terribly there's nothing to get from it. But the people have said that it's because she said she was going to do the 9 books, and 8.5 is the 9th book. It's 8.5, so it's the 9th book, and no more. And that he went ahead and wrote this other book, the 10th book, on his own.
I love how it's 8.5. It's almost like that anomaly, it's like kind of like not quite 8. It's not 8 and it's not 9. It's like kind of in between where we are. And so I wanted to take this quote by Aristotle. Educating the mind without educating the heart is no education at all. So she educates the heart. And I think that's what we're trying to do here, is to educate the heart.
Right.
Yep.
So I believe that that's part of the huge antidote, and maybe it's the quantum leap that we need to focus on, because, through heart math they talk about, the heart resonance and how that could literally, shift one's life living through the heart. And I think
that's the Heart Math Institute, right? Exactly.
Yes, the heart math. So I think that living in the heart and bringing our awareness to the heart is essential. Even when we ground in nature, it's no longer through the first chakra, the groin. It's through the heart now. You have to anchor in through your heart. So there's a whole different feeling when that occurs.
And it seems like these books from Nastasia, it's almost like a blueprint bringing us back to that divinity that this planet has should have been all along, and it's right there, so that we finally anchor ourselves with her, and that's what John Lash talks about as well, right? With the Sophia, with Gaia Sophia. Did you want to talk a little bit about what you know about that?
Yes, but back to Nastasia, it's very interesting that that a lot of her books, with the Kin's domain and through the the dolmens, she does kind of bring up our archaeology, ancient archaeology of how a lot of the dolmens were used for transformation. Actually, I think the process was what was it? Communing or Serena?
Yes, the dolmens. A lot of people thought that they were burial places or tombs or things like that. No, this is not what they were. The dolmens were stones, huge stones that were set up by these beings who lived very long lives, and they contained wisdom. And when these people no longer had wisdom to pass down to another person, they did not want to die with all of their wisdom and knowledge about life without having shared it with the future generations. And so what these beings would do, these women, mostly they were grandmothers, they would willingly go into a space and have the community or their special friends or loved ones put and close them and entomb them within these stones, these huge, massive stones that they could not be moved by, single people. They would get groups of people to come and entomb this person within this stone with a small hole and a small opening, that this person would sit there in communion with spirit and earth and nature. And this person eventually would pass away, but the spirit would be contained in that dolmen so that anyone who wanted the knowledge that this person contained, all the knowledge and wisdom that they had, can go to that dolmen and ask this person for that wisdom, and it can be extracted from that spirit that committed itself to dying in that one place for the sake of knowledge and wisdom to continue.
Wow. And isn't it amazing? That's the natural way. I'm not saying that that's what we want to do is entomb ourselves, but to garner the wisdom, it's like, reminds me of Rupert Sheldrake when he talks about the morphogenetic fields or the living memory of the planet. I call it the living library, how we can literally, or some people call them the Akashic records. I don't really see it as but how it's all contained and we can draw upon that. But also how transhumanism seeks to mimic that by interfacing humans with this false technology to, as like a computer, to become what they think is going to be immortality. Of course, it's not so. But
right. It's about uploading the mind to a computer and eliminating the human body, right? Because it's so inconvenient, right? It eats, it pisses, it shits, and it gets sick and old and ugly and dies, right? So why not just upload the consciousness into a computer and a beautiful cyborg made of all this, wonderful metal and live forever? How cool is that?
But how funny. Consciousness is the soul. You can't capture consciousness in a box.
I know, but this is what they're trying to do, and I hope the people who are listening realize that I was being completely and totally sarcastic, okay?
Right. They're going to end up a lot of people are going to end up dead in searching for this archontic immortality.
They want immortality, and they're willing to upload what they think are just basic, bits of information, just like a computer, onto another master computer. And imagine this: you can download 1,000 bits of information as if from 1,000 bits of Google, right? Imagine 1,000 Googles at your disposal in your mind. How wonderful is that? Isn't that fun?
God. A bondage.
Yeah, and leave the body, but you'll be connected to a master hive mind computer, right? So humans are gone. Soul is gone.
Vampirism.
Right? And they don't realize.
I don't think they have a shot in hell doing that. I mean, honestly, they'd have to capture the essence.
No, only a shot in hell do they have it.
The heart of God is impossible to be able to duplicate that.
Well, they don't, because transhumanism, excuse me, go ahead. Transhumanism doesn't even believe in the soul. They don't believe in consciousness. They just believe that we're just brain and we're, 3D flatliners and that's it. So they're just capturing the neuronal imprint of your brain.
Sure.
Big deal.
Yeah. Whoop-de-doo.
Yeah. So it doesn't even make sense. But it is something, a kind of an narcotic carrot to dangle to all the techies out there who are miserable in their life because they're so disconnected and they keep connecting to what makes them disconnected in the first place. So, you have to take a look at the lives of so many people, how literally they're so isolated. And that's another thing. People are not meant to be isolated. Studies show, evidently, without love and connection, you wither and you die. I mean, the mind literally goes. How about the elderly who no longer have a living companion or their animal or their husband or their family, or they're just alone and there's no one there? Their mind goes. They just move into dementia because there's no connection. And then once there's a visitor, but they spark up like they've never, like they never had dementia. They start to live again. So it just shows the beauty of the heart and community and the fact that we need to connect to other life streams, whether it's an animal, whether it's plants. Humans are supposed to be nurtured. Our faculties are just so beautiful. I really believe that humans are innately kind and good. But I believe that humans are not set up to be able to metabolize or assimilate the garbage that's spewed out in the world, which creates all the chaos within. And because of that, we're just ill-equipped to move through the world with all the miasms of our time, because it's not who we are. So it's like we're being bombarded by all this stuff that's not even natural. It's just unnatural. It's so.
So what do you think it allows us to be? Complacent, allows us to, it's so overwhelming that we just don't do anything because we don't even know how to tackle it.
Well, how many people are depressed? I mean, the depression, the fragmented, just disconnected emotions, people living in their mind. I mean, how many, I look on the computer and I'm honestly, just on Facebook, people literally live on Facebook. They literally live there. I get messages, Alisa, where are you? Why haven't you been on Facebook? Like, where are you, Alisa? Why aren't you posting all your soul stuff? Because, I like to make, soul comments because that's my perspective. And then people get worried, wait a minute, I need a little plug-in, But I'm thinking, well, go outside in nature. I'm outside in nature. What do you need, You're not going to find it through the computer. You're not going to find connection through the computer. It's a great organizing method, but the computer does not replace human contact. It never will. And it just creates more isolation and insanity because it's not who we are.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and we've replaced the human contact, unfortunately, because, there's a lot of us that kind of, like I live in one state, you guys live in another state, things like that. But it's kind of replaced that need to be, in close contact. I mean, at least we're communicating, So that I guess would be the replacement for that. But you're right. There's nothing like human contact, and it's like a little plant, like a person that doesn't have it. It's like a little plant that doesn't have the water it needs to, or the sunshine that it needs to be able to. To be strong and to grow and to actually flower. That's exactly what happens. We wither. So how do you? Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, especially when we live in a concrete world. I mean, most people live in cities, and they're not even surrounded by trees, which could be their friends, or nature. It's just asphalt, traffic. Oh my God, just immense traffic. Going to work in a box. Getting into your little box car, driving home, going into your house, your box, looking into a box, watching another box. I mean, it's like a box within a box within a box.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I can't. It's like getting me agitated just saying that, But yeah, the stream of connection, it must abide in nature. That's who we are. And when we unplug and we don't have the magnetism of the earth beneath our feet, and in the electrical aspect through the heavens. I always say the human is a conduit between heaven and earth, and you have to plug in. You have to plug both ends of the cords because we're open-ended. And so as an ensouled consciousness or an ensouled being, or just being a human, realizing that there's a heaven and there's an earth, however you want to derive heaven, I always say it's galactic arms, the pluripotent core, or, some people like to call it Big Bang. It's kind of, obsolete in my mind. But, we have to connect. And when a person connects, they actually feel filled. And then there's no, life craving. It's not a craving of what a shoulda, coulda, I'm so miserable, oh my God, I don't know what to do next. I'm going to take drugs because I'm so empty and I have no creative impulse because, it's cut off. The whole idea is nature helps nature's generative. Yes. Humans are also generative. We could talk about Kundalini energy, life force energy, generative energy. It's all the energy, that's what I spoke about, the seed. It's the generation of our life force, the life urge, that causes us to want to flower. And humans are meant to flower, and we're not even flowering. We're stunted, totally stunted. And everything in our society literally causes us to be stunted. It's like a flower, it's very interesting how the Japanese or the Chinese had come up with a watermelon and how to transport watermelon. Watermelons are oval or round, and they decided to grow them in a box, in a square box, so they could be transported without any space between them, so they could create blocks. That's exactly how we are.
What's with men and boxes?
I know. Well, that's the trap, is the box. Energy can't flow in a square. It gets caught in stagnant corners, like in Feng Shui. So everything's cyclic. Life is cyclic. It's the spiral. Time is like a frame. A frame is square, normally, and so that's the illusion of living. And people are living an illusion of living. They're not even living, they're existing an illusion of living.
Yeah.
Isn't that scary? Oh my God, the thought of that is horrific.
Yeah.
To be in a body that's so divine and to never even know your potential, to never even know yourself, to me that's freaks me out. I learned this. The unexamined life is not worth living. I think that's another by Socrates, I think, or Aristotle. I think it's Socrates. But the unexamined life is not worth living. That was certainly my motivator in college when I studied philosophy. And it totally transformed my awareness. It's wow, well, how can I just go through without even, examining things, And people don't examine. They're just fed. It's just fed stuff, and they believe it. No one ever questions anything. That's why I love J. Krishnamurti. He says, question everything, even the contents of your own mind. Question
Especially
everything.
the contents of your own mind.
Yeah. Hey, and you know what? Things change. Knowledge is fleeting. It's the knowledge of today, and it's going to change tomorrow. So you better not defend it with your life, because an open mind and a sane mind will allow themselves to change their point of view. Because, you can't hold on to anything. The only thing that's really real is the wisdom, that's found in nature and through direct experience. That's really the real,
Yeah.
So,
Interesting.
But, so I find it interesting, with all the isolation. I mean, it's all connected. It really is. I don't know if everyone's following the stream here, but everything is connected, because if we're not grounded in nature, I always call it the spirit in nature, because, it's Gaia Sophia. She is the pluripotent essence, the spirit in nature. I believe that spirit is what animates everything. And so you look at the earth, how can earth possibly be dead? I don't know how these high priest scientists say that the earth is inert. I mean, hello, do we not see beautiful things growing from earth?
Because they are inert. They are just speaking from the superficial mind, the hive mind of a false science, and they are not speaking from the knowledge and the living organic light that is the soul and the spirit. They're just speaking from a half-dead, construct that doesn't even belong on this freaking planet.
I know. It's inorganic. Exactly. So I always like to separate the difference. People say, oh, the love and fear. Well, love and fear, love. Not everyone can really feel love, honestly. We do know that.
I've noticed that. Have you noticed that?
Yes. So I always say, let's work with the life urge or the death urge. Those are my terms that I use as well. Are we moving towards the life urge or are we moving towards the death urge? Anything that where there's entropic forces, meaning dissolution, destroying. And I'm not talking about personal transformation where you have to literally burn the old ways of being and destroy that. I'm talking about true chaotic stuff that's literally destroying life, the generative function of Earth, like Monsanto's destroying the generative function of Earth. The generative function would be the capacity for life to generate and also to feed all the species on Earth. Well, I mean, gosh, there's so many animals that are extinct because really humans are the one that's destroying all the animals. Mm-hmm. Through technology, birds are falling out from the sky. There's whales that are beached up through, sonar experiments. God only knows the EMF frequencies that are planted everywhere with the cell phone mast towers. They all cause the generative function of Earth to be compromised. Just like EMFs, compromise our central nervous system and just the etheric body in general. And I think that, obviously that information is suppressed, but the UN did declare EMFs to be a health hazard, for, cancer. Yeah. So, sure. Yet there's Wi-Fi everywhere, but it's big business, and big business is what rules. And that's part of the matrix, that's the whole matrix, because if humans were really the center of attention, the wellness, or if the life urge was intact, these systems would be supporting the life urge, not destroying it.
Absolutely.
Right. So I always say, well, wow, how could people do this? I mean, like, these people have families. I mean, like, who would do this? And I just can't wrap my mind around it, even with the money, because we all have to live and breathe the same air and eat the same food pretty much, I mean, technically. And I'm thinking, well, what human would do that? And then I realized, wow, maybe not everyone is human. Maybe there's forces out there that are influencing the human vehicle through intrapsychic penetration, causing humans, implanting thoughts into human mind to produce the evil. Mm-hmm. But, so then that's going back, kind of rounding it off to the discussion in the beginning, where I was feeling all this tension in my solar plexus, literally out of nowhere. And then I have these negative thought streams entering my head that have nothing to do with the other. I mean, I can't even begin to tell you. Just, and I've been noticing there's more of a frequent insertion of those thoughts. Things that come out of nowhere. I don't watch TV, rarely ever, and I don't watch violence. I'm not into viewing violence. People who watch violence, whoa, they're really messing with their bodies, because the eyes are the windows of the soul, and when you start to look at violence, it's like imprints into your body, and it kind of numbs you up and cuts you off from your feeling apparatus, which to me is very scary. And that's why there's this whole desire now for zombies. Like, notice zombie everything? It's like crazy. Zombie. And I just saw this little ad. I was looking for images, and it says, there's one that says, good friends don't let friends eat genetically modified organisms. But then I saw one that says, good friends don't eat friends. And it had a face of a zombie. I was like, oh my God, who would even create such a thing?
Well,
so
we have an infestation. We have an infestation of aliens. I think, invasion of the body snatchers has already occurred here, and it's not invasion of the body snatchers, it's invasion of mind snatchers.
Exactly. That's why I said we need to have a rights of mind. That's so important. We really need to develop something that has a rights of mind, because how dare someone incept my mind stream and implant something in it that has nothing to do with my reality.
That's right.
That's
how dare
they? It's like psychic advertising. That's what it is. Psychic advertising. When you watch TV and they like French fries there, and all of a sudden you're craving French fries. Oh my God, it's subliminal.
That is the next. That's the next step for Madison Avenue. That's the next step.
Psychic advertising.
Oh yeah. Wow.
Yeah, implanting subliminal thoughts that have nothing to do with your personal life. Or if they do, to create bad situations, kind of like instead of finding an affirmative response like of, oh, well, what's the next best step, to get me out of my loop, whatever it is, and then it starts to actually, implant something in your head and make you go the negative way instead of the positive way. And then now we're going to talk about frequency, because frequency is very interesting. Energy's neutral. Well, how are you going to use it? Are you going to use it for fear, or are you going to use it for love, to affirm or negate life? So I'm noticing the fear frequency is huge. We have a war on terror. We have a war on everything's a war. Everything's terror and war. Mm-hmm. Aren't you sick of it?
Yeah. Sick of it. Sick of it. My hands up. Yes, I am.
I am so sick of it.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's a weapon that they use, and they know it's very effective. Okay, because they all elicit a reaction.
Well, I implore everyone to study Edward Bernays, which was Freud's, I think, nephew. I think he was Freud's nephew, and who started to, I think it was like in the 30s or maybe even the 40s. This was the beginning of like advertising and how to manipulate the human mind. This is like the beginning of it through the media. So you could see this, the way TV injects thought forms into your mind. Then I also believe that there's intrapsychic forces that inject things into your mind. So it's kind of like working both ways, and I really think they both work hand in hand. I mean, David Icke has done a brilliant expose of linking, them together, the lineage. It's like the media is the mouthpiece for the forces. Mm-hmm. And I think it was Roosevelt, or I think it was, where he says like there's this huge power that no one dares speak his name that's literally controlling humanity. And Congress is so scared that no one dares speak its name. There is a quote somewhere. And I'm wondering, wow, what great force is this that we don't know about? It certainly can't be, the Rockefellers or the blue blood family lineages, because seriously, it's got to be something greater.
Yeah.
Did you ever find the name?
Sorry?
I think it could be like Moloch. I think it's Moloch.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting. Glenn Beck wrote a book called The Eye of Moloch, or Moloch. Mm-hmm. He just wrote a book. It's his bestseller.
Oh, really?
And it's interesting because that eye would be kind of like what's on top of the pyramid on our dollar bill.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And that one is known for eating, literally consuming and eating children. And, that was his preferred diet. And sacrifices that have to be made to him, of course, him. And this is the one that they pray to at the Bohemian Grove. And all of those freaks of nature who have their yearly homosexual celebration of pure idiocy and insanity.
Yeah, the sodomy. Mm-hmm.
The sodomy and pissing all over the place and the floors and each other, and they dress up in drag.
Yeah,
they
degradation.
Dress up in drag women's clothes and put on women's makeup, and they begin to act like a bunch of buffoons. And these are the ones who are our leaders, and these are the ones that have the nerve to talk about women.
Oh, God. Right? Yeah, and it's all hidden.
They talk about women. There is no depth of hormonal problem that can even come close to the hormonal psychopathy of the testosterone that is pissing and shitting all over the place at the Bohemian Grove during their celebrations, and they're dressed up as women wearing lipstick.
Well, it's an absolute degradation of the divine feminine. That's what it is. It's an acting out a symbolic enactment of shitting on Mother Nature, on Gaia Sophia. I mean, it's like on the divine feminine. When you assault the essence, the womb of the mother who's given us life, you notice that children, animals, and women are like the last on the totem pole.
Right.
It's almost like we have no rights, and they want to make sure it stays that way. They give you a little bit incrementally. And then I notice the women who kind of step into the power structure, usually they're like wearing a penis. So unlike now, they're women who have divested their female goals in order to pretend to have, to wear a penis so they can have male goals, which will never work because they're totally two different animals, obviously.
Yeah, well, of course, no anything, no party, no political party anywhere is going to allow a woman in office unless she completely relinquishes her femininity. Mm-hmm. So she has to be trained by the patriarchy. She has to pass the test of the patriarchy, dress like the patriarchy, and become the mouthpiece for the patriarchy. And then that is the woman that gets to get up on stage, with whatever mm-hmm. name she has, appearing as a woman. But she's not. She's just a woman who's been trained by men to be a man. That's all.
And she's dumped on her feminine.
She's relinquished it. She had to relinquish it. It is because it's not acceptable in any of the systems that have been created by the Patrix.
And she's sold out her sisters. Isn't that sad?
Yeah.
The sisterhood.
Not just sisterhood, but, humanity. Because humanity is desperately in need of the feminine. And so when they do that, and granted, some of them do that thinking that they're going to go in there and they're going to make changes slowly and little by little. And they're not allowed. They have to work within a system they didn't create.
Right.
And so what are they going to do, create another system when they get in there? It can't be done. They can only operate within the system that was created by that patriarchal insanity. And so that's all they're doing. Is perpetuating the insanity.
I know,
and that's why we have women like you talking and speaking with us on the phone, because we want to let others know what is involved in claiming your own autonomy and claiming your own mind. We're after claiming and reclamation of our own mind and the ability to think for ourselves.
Well, I think with it, yes. I think within that it's huge to heal the gender split. Like, I'm very integrated with my masculine and feminine side. And I think that more women need to be integrated instead of divesting their feminine for a male goal, to rather bridge the two together so you're a whole functioning being and drawing upon the best in each,
Yeah. Well, I think most women do not neglect their masculine. They don't neglect the masculine. They embrace it. They're naturally, whatever the masculine is, there are some traits there. And I think we have them all naturally. But it's when they banish the feminine that it becomes a problem, because the men have done that. The men have, they're not wanting to be feminine, and as a rule, they're not wanting to be. And then these women of power come in, and they have relinquished the feminine as well. And so there are no representations for the feminine race on the planet, and there hasn't been for generations, not generations, eons, actually, I should say. And this is the direct cause of the demise of humanity, and for all of its integrity has just gone downhill and become the degradation of pain and suffering that it is. It's because of the lack of the feminine. Specifically, absolutely.
Who's fantastic, who's actually quite a leader, is Vandana Shiva, which goes back to the planting the seed and nourishing Mother Nature. But do you know who Vandana Shiva is?
No.
I don't either.
She's from India, and she's the one that's she's really well, let's see. I think she's a lawyer. And she has created an entire movement. I believe she's a lawyer. She's created, check on the internet, Vandana Shiva, Shiva.
I think I've seen her face. She has a very round face. She's an elderly woman.
She's Indian, and she wears
she's a little chunky. She's a
the
little
bindi
chunky.
point. Mm-hmm. And
the large bindi. Yes, I've seen her face. I know who you're talking about. Beautiful woman.
She's been on Bill Moyers talking about the seeds and the Indian literally helping to transform the planet. And, permaculture is a way of living that really is actually very Nastasia in the Ringing Cedars of Russia.
Yes.
So anybody who's interested in permaculture, it's literally a lifestyle, the way Ayurveda or yoga would be a lifestyle. It's very similar in a lot of ways.
Yes, it is.
So, we're talking about all these things. So I think that maybe we should just focus on the solution, because we can go on and on and on. And
absolutely. Yeah, I think it's important to understand all where we're at. We are here, okay, but we do have the power, okay, being divine beings, spark of prime creator, co-creators as well, to get ourselves out of this situation, to actually co-create our world. And so what I'd love to do, having our little round table here, is to engage into conversation that will bring up our imagination, that will bring up that inspiration, that empowers us and animates us into action of co-creating this world. And what does that look like? So how do we step out of this matrix, and what does it take to do that? What are your opinions? I leave that up to you to bring that forth.
And how do you personally do it? Because I know you do it.
Well, number one, I think that for everybody, it's a personal thing. Of course, direct experience is everything. But I think whether people are into spirituality or not, whether they believe, about Gaia of fire, anything like that, or the spirit, or, anything like that, it's really important to know, as a human being, by virtue of our birth, that we have self-sovereign rights. Just by virtue of our birth, that we exist, we have every right to be here. And if you want to use the political way, then you can do that. But we have to step into our personal power. So whatever one's belief system is, it's irrelevant. The fact is each of us has a sovereign right to be here and to be nurtured by our planet, and an equal share of the resources. So number one is that, well, how are we going to claim that? Well, we do that through exercising our will. It's our right to exercise our will in a way that's life-affirming. So people have to start, I know we petition to the government, no one listens. So that seems to be the thing. No one's listening to us. So the point is now to start creating local, speak to your neighbors, start doing things locally. I really believe right now, forget about waiting for the matrix to fall. I don't believe in working against the system that you have. There's not enough energy, and it's just going to cause inertia. Forget about it. It doesn't exist in my mind. It's not even a part of my reality other than some basic things. The fact is we need to create from the grassroots level up. The local community, and build from there. I mean, there's so many wonderful things that are happening when people come together as a community and start to create from the ground up. Those are local sustainable solutions. And I think when people come together to create local sustainable solutions, that's where things will start to change, because that'll kind of be like the new template or the new way of living through the grassroots level. Just like the seed, it starts to sprout up from the ground. That's us. We're the grassroots. Forget about the pyramid at the top down. That's irrelevant. We need to start from the bottom up in creating an entirely new structure, an entirely new planetary ethic. And I think that's not going to be so easy, because we're doing it a little at a time, and we don't know any way. We don't even have the answer. It's just kind of like organic. It's an organic movement where people come together and share. And the true formula really is some form of goodwill. What's another word for goodwill? Humanism maybe could be something like that. To be humanistic and to have a compassion, have a sense of compassion for the other, and willingness to cooperate and work together. There's millions of ideologies, and no one's ever going to think the same or feel the same or really want even the same thing. Okay, well, there's certain things that are true to all of us, and maybe that's what we need to look at. We all want love, and we all want to feel love, and everyone wants peace, mostly. Healthy, normal humans do. And I think we should focus on that. And when we focus on that, community starts to arise, and then people start to build things. There's a magazine called Yes Magazine, which is filled with beautiful things, stories of how people come together in different communities, and they're really building like community gardens. I know here in Florida there's tons of...
What is it called?
Yes Magazine,
okay.
YES, exclamation point.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. And I mean, it's a very inspiring magazine. Okay, free advertising a little there, but I love it, and it always inspires me because I see people are really creating at the grassroots level, and that's what we need to do. Florida, there's so many people who've come together that's separate from the federal government, that's all engaging in local community, and we're changing local laws. Just now in South Florida, Fort Lauderdale, I believe the zoning committee is going to be coming together soon, I think in June or July, I think probably in July, to change the law where people can actually have chickens in their backyard.
Oh, great.
Wow.
Yeah, they did that in Tennessee. They changed it.
Yeah. So if the voice of the people say, hey, this is what we want, and we want community gardens, and we want, food sovereignty, this is how to do it. We need to start allying together. It's, alone we feel isolated. We don't feel like we have much power. So I think we need to start coming together as groups and to do this often and not always, just over the phone. And I think that's what the meetup groups are about. People come together in small groups and they start to build. But I think it's so important to do that. And then on a personal level, of course, to connect, within nature. I think nature is supplemental. Everyone needs to ground every day in nature, walk in the grass, connect with your plants, just relax and feel the energies move through you. And it really just helps open the whole body up and brings the imagination, and try to cultivate creativity every day. I saw something on Facebook, that Facebook again, which actually should be gone because literally at the NSA, I think, and there's a guy that was like the CEO of Facebook is now working for NSA, or he was with NSA and now working for Facebook, one or the other. Yeah, I just read something about that. So yeah, it's major surveillance site. We know that already. But it was someone was saying how, this person just doesn't have. I don't have time for creativity. Well, it's like saying you don't have time for yourself. I mean, come on, what are you doing? How plugged into the matrix are you? What, you're like become an automaton? You have no time for yourself? Seriously. Sit in the pot and dream. Take time to cry. Just use your time in the shower to imagine certain things. I love to draw and connect in nature and. Whether it's my neighborhood filled with trees, that's my nature because I don't live in a nature preserve. I don't live in the forest. I live in Weston, which is filled with trees, but there's like there's like a little path of trees, and I walk my dog, and that's my nature connection and growing plants, and, that's my green thumb. And, okay, not everyone's into green thumb, but do something that's creative that makes you feel fulfilled. That's it. It's not going to be the same for everybody, but something that's healthy. I'm not talking about porn. Sitting watching porn all day long.
Oh, God,
because it's making you feel good.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, that's an aberration.
Yeah, those things attract negative entities that make you feel really lousy. But connecting to nature and working with the living trees and that organic light that is trees and flowers, plants and herbs and all of that attracts beneficent energies. And people need to understand that that's exactly what happens. One makes you feel really, really good. The other one makes you feel sick eventually.
Well, that's what's so interesting, that there's an assault on nature as well as wildlife, scourging wildlife because they'll have nothing to eat, because Monsanto and Syngenta and all the other biotech companies that are complicit are creating genetically engineered trees that can't support bees and any wildlife in it because they don't produce anything. They're sterile. So it's like creating literally a synthetic matrix. And, of course, their idea of sterilizing birds is insanity. So you can just see what the agenda is. And I think that, seriously, if anybody has any heart, the biggest harm to our planet right now literally is Monsanto and all those biotech companies. It does not support life. It's literally ecocide, genocide, and I think they need to be sued or shoved in the Hague and brought against them crimes against humanity and of nature. And I think that's probably a huge movement we need to create. They need to be eliminated.
Yeah.
The whole idea of biotechnology needs to be eliminated, as well as nanotechnologies, which is in our products. People spray stuff on their skin. It's got nanotechnology in it.
Yeah.
So remember.
Well, I personally
complicity.
That's growing truth.
Yeah, the what?
You were saying about what? I'm sorry. What were you saying?
Well, when people allow these things, they become complicit in it. So you have to be. It's not like there's just one solution, but the solution is you by your daily actions and what you choose. So that's really the solution. How do you choose to live your life? What do you think your life's going to be 5 years from now? If you're supporting the death urge agenda that's destroying everything, well, obviously life for anybody is not going to be so hot. So I would assume that anybody who's into the life urge that wants to generate and make things that are beautiful and supporting for a good life for yourself, which is not all about money, because that's an illusion in itself, because it's only according to who places the value on the money. But to vote with your dollars and to be really conscious of how you choose, and what you support. So now we have the green movement. With this whole climate change thing, and what I was flabbergasted at what Obama said when he was on the radio. I mean, when he was on the TV, I heard him on Fox News, and he said, "There will be no tolerance. I will not tolerate anybody who denies global warming. He will not tolerate." That means that anybody who doesn't believe in global warming is a terrorist. That's very dangerous.
I can't take it anymore, I swear.
Are you serious? And then he supported, what's that guy? He supported John McCain's cap and trade, which literally will tax your every move, short of the air you breathe. I mean, honestly.
Well, that's coming too.
So, we have to really, really, really look at things. And I know that's a difficult thing because, who really knows about climate change? I call it human miscreation. You can see it on my website. It's human miscreation. Of course, if we love the planet, we wouldn't plunder it. That's kind of like basic. But how do we? But if you look at the global or the if you step really far back and you look at kind of like from a galactic level, you could see that we're leaving an ice age into a warming stage. So it's like a cosmic occurrence. But then human miscreation of these corporations that plunder nature doesn't help. That should be eliminated anyway, whether it's, it's hot or not, And, of course, the chemtrails that have ripped a hole open in the atmosphere, which probably Nastasia calls the dark windows of time, allowing all these entities and different life forms to come in that had no presence on Earth, no allowance. Literally, the ring past knot of our planetary sphere has been breached.
Yeah.
Right.
And so all these forces have come in to implant a specific agenda and are a little closer to us than they should be. I believe that there's other life forms. It would be kind of be egotistical to think that there's no other life forms other than ourselves. But, there was always a ring past knot, like a membrane that didn't allow them into our Earth atmosphere. But now that's been totally blown away through sonar testing and nuclear bombs and everything. Oh, my God, it's like ripped everything up.
Yeah.
Sure.
So now we're like a big cut.
They know. Science knows that nuclear testing literally creates holes within the fabric of space and time.
Exactly.
And so when it rips holes in the fabric of space and time that's invisible to us, right, it creates an opening where all other entities can come in, and that a lot of this so-called testing, nuclear testing, has done that to deliberately allow these entities in. And that's why this planet has been breached, and we see so many freaky and sick people doing sick things and destroying nature by the millions. In every country they're trying to do this, these corporates and absolute ignorance and dangerous people who are doing this. But we do believe in solution, and like you said, we are going to have different ways of doing it individually, but I think to have one common denominator between everybody that is doing this, reconnecting to nature has to be a common goal. Reconnecting to nature is the way to reinstill our life and love for this planet, purify the waters, purify the airs, because we need to live here. And I think we need to apply some of that energy to taking care of the planet that supplies us with life-giving forces, really.
Absolutely. Yeah. Communing in nature reconnects the gaps in consciousness. It can actually mend a mind that has been deterred into synthetic experiences, you know, that are literally repetitive, that are not even real. They're just, you know, duplicative.
Exactly. Well said. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
So nature is the way.
And a lot of people really, really need to take it, you know, in their own hands to have this corrective measure. And, you know, and with me personally, like, for example, I feel that if I don't know about something and I really feel like I need to be engaged in it, which all of us do, with this corrective measure with the planet, bringing the planet, restoring planet back to its original form, you know, then, you know what, take some classes, you know, learn how to do it. Like, you know, I never had a green thumb. I'm going to tell you that. I would kill all my plants. But, you know, actually last year I spent a whole year, it wasn't a whole year, it was actually like maybe 6 months out of the year. And I went and I learned from, I would say, one of the best people that is probably out there to learn about aquaponics and about year-round growing. And I went to the what's called Growing Power up in Wisconsin, and learned how to do that. But here's what happened when I learned how to do that, because when I entered this his premise, I mean, these are greenhouses, mind you, in Wisconsin, you know, and it's super cold over there. I mean, this guy grows millions of pounds of food a year, you know. But what was most humbling to me and put me in a state of like, it was like a spiritual connection, because this man was growing, you know, the most amazing food in temperatures that were below zero. And I was like in a temple. To me, that became a temple. And because I could see the synergy of everything. I mean, you could see from the smallest microbes to the fish, to the plants that were growing and the food that was growing. Everything was working with each other in synergy.
Right.
You know, nobody was telling it, you've got to, guys, you need to work together. Hey, guys, you know, we've got to be on the same page to make this happen. No, it was all happening. So you were seeing the magic of Mother Nature, of the Creator, working its magic there. And and that was just a little, you know, sample of, again, the fractal of how things really should be.
So
my goodness, just, yeah. I mean, my gosh, if everybody could just at least, you know, do something like that, take a class, whether it's a meetup group or do you know, a garden, you know, in their home, in their community, and you have to see what happens. It's the magic that happens, not only within the soil, you know, the little microbes that are there to enrich the soil which is there to feed the plant that is there, you know, to feed us and other animals. I mean, it's that, but it's what happens within the community when that happens.
Right.
And so that, I mean, just doing something as simple as just doing that is amazing. And so I just wanted to bring that up.
On a bench. You don't even have to plant.
Exactly.
You know, just commune with nature. That movie Avatar is a perfect example.
Perfect.
Just sit and try it for yourself and see how good you feel.
Yep.
I mean, it's absolutely splendid. You know, it starts to rewire your brain. Literally, it starts to integrate, creates whole brain consciousness.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think people should question why that is. Well, if we go into nature and we feel good, if we're sitting on Mother Earth's land and we start to feel good, or we go to the beach and we feel cleansed, you know, why is that? Why are we feeling good in Mother Nature? And why is it that when we leave Mother Nature and we enter, you know, these patriarchal cities of cement and asphalt that are removed of anything that is of the organic light, why we start to feel sick and we start to go crazy and we start to feel irritable? People need to ask themselves why that is. Okay, the answer is clear. In case people don't get it, I'm going to give it. And the answer is because Mother Nature is life-affirming. The mother
Right.
gives life. She's nurturing. She's caring. She's
Yeah.
power. She has the power to make you feel good. She has the power to cure all ills. She has the power to remove insanity, how to correct insanity. She has the power to correct all things that have gone out of balance and bring them back into balance. And you go into an all-male complex or matrix system, you will get sick and eventually die. You will.
Yes. Nature's life-generating, and I would say the concrete infrastructures of our society are life-degenerating, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we could find a balance by you know, building correctly, like feng shuiing homes, you know, like building, you know, in nature settings, you know, in a different way that would be more nature affirming, you know, to bring nature into your house and to build accordingly instead of, you know, high-rise towers that are erected and all the trees are cut and there's nothing around, you know, a few palm trees here and there, you know, whatever. That's just not going to do it. And then everyone's just in a box, one in a box, one in a box.
Well, I mean, just think about this. I mean, if there's a plant, which it seems like it to me, if you just look at everything that they're doing, from contaminating the waters to the skies to the food to plants, they're killing nature. And by killing nature, then, you know, there goes humanity, because that's our connection to the divine is through
That's
the mother.
our medicine. So. That's our redeemer.
Yep.
That is the one who can reverse all of this. There is only one way to reverse all of this psychopathy.
Yeah.
And
let's engage, because it's us who's going to reverse it. No one's going to save us. No aliens are going to come from the sky and say, "Oh, beam up. We're going to take you to a new planet for you to destroy." I mean, you know, we're here for a reason.
They've already done that.
Well, you know, I'm not interested in going anywhere else. I mean, seriously, Earth is beautiful to me. I mean, she's like perfect, absolute perfection. Everything is offered to us through nature. I don't understand why. Well, I do understand. If you know the agenda, if you can perceive the death urge agenda, then it's clear of why everything needs to be destroyed. But that's not who I am, because I'm not psychopathic. But the death urge agenda is simply that: more money, more power, control over humanity, depopulation through poisons, and, you know, the disease system of our health care, or actually death care system. You know, we can go on and on and on. But if we align with nature, and I'm not saying we're going to go back to primitive times, because that'll never happen. I mean, we don't even have enough land forestation to even go back to primitive time. I mean, our ancient forests are being cut for palm oil, for goodness sake. So, you know, don't support those products, you know, for palm oil. Now the whole green thing is, you know, Obama says, we need to now support green fuel. Well, what does that mean? Deforesting and planting palm oil trees, so we could use palm oil for our gas? I mean, come on. You know, why don't we use hemp? Don't you think that's the best idea? Hemp is fabulous. You know, it gives you everything. That's like
it
the
does
nature.
Everything. You can do everything with hemp. It's amazing.
Hemp blocks to build your home, which is stronger than concrete. The seeds have more protein in it, like 15 or 9 grams of protein per teaspoon. It is absolutely unbelievable. Wow. Hemp oil heals your skin. It is amazing. Hemp clothing, hemp paper, hemp toilet paper. Every time I wipe my ass, now I'm thinking, oh, my God, how many forests and ecosystems and animals literally had to die for me to wipe my ass. I have to say that. I saw a movie called, I think it was called Death of the Green Forest. I think I posted it, Death of the Green Forest. Oh, my gosh, about, it was one of the most heart-evoking movies, and I was literally depressed for 2 weeks. Everybody needs to see that. There's no voice in it. It's just nature, and then you could it's a visual, and you need to see it. It is just absolutely unbelievable, and you start to rethink how you use things. Seriously.
What is the name of it again?
I think it's called The Death of the Green Forest. It's a YouTube video. I mean, it's actually a documentary. It won an award.
Death of the Green Forest.
Or green, yes, something of that. Let me try to find it. Yeah, it's absolutely.
Yeah, because I'm sure there are people who are listening and who are going to be scrambling. And what did she say? What's the name of that movie?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, definitely the step into the right direction would be, of course, to get back into nature, to get back into the natural world. This is where the planet is pristine. Before the maggots got on it and created what we have now, and I think that would be the answer to that.
It's called Green Death of the Forests, and you can watch it on Green Death of the Forest, and you can watch it on YouTube. It's a 2012 video. It's 47 minutes. It is very unusual, and it's absolutely incredible. And I urge everybody to watch that. Fantastic. And let me tell you something. If you're not feeling anything in your heart, then you better call us. We'll help you reconnect.
No, let them call Mars. If they don't feel anything, they can call Mars.
Seriously, absolutely unbelievable. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, don't call me. I'm done. You can call Alisa.
Call Alisa.
No, gosh.
What's your number?
We're going to create a green center, a green forest center, an eco village where you can come in and reconnect yourself, so you can start feeling again. So
there you go.
There you go.
That's that. And they can find everything on your website.
Oh, yes, ecologyofthespirit.com. Have fun. It's a journey in there. I invite you actually to check it out.
Absolutely. Well, is there any last words that you'd like to for today's show that you would like to express for our listeners to know and all that good stuff before we wind down the program?
Well, really, I want people to impress on people that to take a look. Don't take anybody's word for it. Just take a look at the world affairs and decide for yourself the direction that it's going, okay? And to look at it, start connecting the dots. Don't freak out. Believe me, it's enough to make you have a nervous breakdown, but don't freak out because it is feasible to step out of it because, we're the ones that are keeping the power structures intact. Remember that. Yeah. We are complicit when we support our oppressors. I always say I do not support my oppressors. So that when I say I unplug from the matrix is because I'm not going to support my oppressors. Like now I learned through Monsanto or through that Whole Foods has succumbed to Monsanto and Organic Valley and Stonyfield, and I think another one is now also succumbed to them. So now I will no longer buy their products.
Correct.
So,
really? Whole Foods?
Stonyfield and Organic Valley, yes. So now I no longer will buy their products. And so that's how you do it. So you have to support, organic creameries or dairy, and that's where we need to start investing people who care for us, who want to keep us healthy.
Local organic farmers as
well.
Yes,
support the companies who are trying to affirm life and keep us healthy. Mm-hmm. I mean, just do a little research. If there's so much out there, how can you not? I mean, if one chooses to be ignorant, then that's your plight,
Right.
I have nothing to say about that. I mean, everyone has to choose their path. I'm not here to change anybody's mind. But those who seek a life-affirming experience and want to live without war and misery, it's just for every human the way to change. If you feel so... like, I can't do anything and I'm meaningless, then do it by your action, and you are meaningful. Every person counts. Every single person counts. Everyone has the capacity to choose well for themselves and to make the correction. And the correction is to choose wisely and to know who's poisoning you. And why would you want to buy products and consume products for your children when you know that stuff poisons you? I don't get it, I certainly don't choose that. So for me, I would say the most primary thing is to start supporting local businesses or any other businesses that support life and want to keep you well and healthy. And together, the numbers will start to accumulate and we'll be able to be a greater force. So we'll have more to talk about those alignments, which maybe that could be for, another show or something. But,
absolutely. This is definitely an ongoing process, of how to walk ourselves out of this matrix and
together.
Empower us. This is not just a one-day conversation of a couple of minutes, 40 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever it ends up being. This is an ongoing thing, and as we live on this planet and we learn about other things, then we have to address that, and it's like what you mentioned. We need to be open to that new information and then just address it. Because that's part of our empowerment. That's
right.
Right. We have the right to do that. It is our planet. We want it back. I certainly don't want to throw my white flag. I would have done so already. I'm so tired.
I know. Well, and if you want more information on the wellness stuff that I do, you can visit www.integrallifewellness. That's INTEGRAL wellness.com. And there's a plethora of information, including the biospiritual warfare that we're against in terms of, what's affecting our bodies, and then the remedies for those. And Serena has tons of them. We've been sharing her little remedies for a while.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So, on how to cleanse the body, keep the body detoxed, very important to detox the body. And also the mind and the emotions. It's a constant thing. One doesn't just work alone. So.
No, absolutely true. Serena, did you want to say anything?
No, I just wanted to thank Alisa for sharing her information. She's a wealth of information, and
she sure is.
She carries the information of the wise woman and the ancient traditions of the wise woman, and this information is lacking on the planet. We need to find the living sources for the wise woman traditions, and Alisa is one representation of that. And we didn't even scratch the surface of the information that she contains, but I hope that people will go to her site and become interested, and that we can listen to Alisa speak again about some other topics, in depth and candid and free speaking of the knowledge of the ancient wisdom of the feminine that Lisa so well represents. So, Lisa, thank you, Alisa, for being with us and speaking with us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely, and don't forget, everyone, that Alisa's website is ecologyofthespirit.com. Definitely go in there, because you will be totally amazed of the amount of information, a lot of hard work that she's put into that site, and it's just when you go in there, you'll just come out knowing so much more. So, Alisa, again, thank you very much for being with us today, sharing your information. We will be doing this again with you. More than likely, I foresee a nice series with you to provide solutions. Yeah, provide solutions, because that's so important. We need to have the empowerment. That's crucial right now. So, again, everyone, thank you very much for listening to our show. This is Shattering the Matrix. You can catch us every Thursday night, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And that's 9 p.m. Did I say Eastern? No, I should say 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time and 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Blog Talk Radio. So, again, thank you very much, and see you next time. Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
You've been listening to Shattering the Matrix with your host, Ari Kopel and Serena. Please visit our website, 2012emergence.com. That's 2012emergence.com. Find us on Twitter at Matrix Shattered, and like us on Facebook at facebook.com/Shattering the Matrix. Listen to archived shows at blogtalkradio.com/Shattering the Matrix. And join us next time for the birth of the new golden era on Shattering the Matrix.